Hey there. Did you enjoy Shadowbringers? And I mean like really enjoy Shadowbringers? Did wandering the world of Norvrend feel like a fresh, new experience full of new things to explore and learn as you played through the MMO's expansion? If the answer is yes, then what if I told you there's a very good reason for it? And what if I told you you're probably going to experience that feeling again in Dawntrail? Hello my friends, I am the Synodic Scribe, your loyal custodian in all things lore, and today I'm going to talk about why you should be looking forward to Dawntrail if you're a fan of world building and exploration like me. But as always with me, a bit of history first. When Shadowbringers launched, there were many players that were very excited to be exploring the first. And with good reason. It was a fresh experience, a new world not too dissimilar from ours, but fundamentally different in a lot of cultural and aesthetic ways. To a lot of players, this was invigorating. It was exciting to want to explore and see what else this other shard of the source had to offer us. In fact, people enjoyed it so much, they started to ponder and theorycraft what is going on with the other shards, and will we explore them in the future? Now, what if I told you there was a very good reason you felt that way? That the entire Shadowbringers experience felt so different, yet fresh, and that it had nothing to do with the first. You see, Final Fantasy XIV is an MMO that doesn't have the same history as most other games. Of course, everyone knows about the flop of 1.0 and its transition to 2.0 with great success. But what a lot of people don't understand is that the story, or rather the fundamentals of the world for Final Fantasy XIV, had already been written before 2.0. Lore behind places like Gridania, Ishgard, Ul'dah, Limsa, all of these things had been decided before the transition to 2.0. But Eorzea wasn't the only location that had been defined in the early days of Final Fantasy XIV. There are a few mentions of places like Ilsabard, a brief mention of Othard, and even little hints at places like Meracidia. But of course, things like the shards, things like the first, were completely undefined. There was no literary background, no foundation or framework for the shards and what they were like. So when Shadowbringers finally came around, the writers had the opportunity to really express their creativity when it came to what would a reflection look like to us. If you feel like the first, if you feel like Shadowbringers had a lot more creative freedom to it than some of the other expansions, well, that's why. All of the lore that we gain from Norvrend, from the first, is fresh. It's brand new. It was not established prior to us playing it, prior to the transition to 2.0. Shadowbringers was not affected by the changing of gears. It was, for lack of a better term, original. And what if I told you that Dawntrail is going to be the same way? Which finally brings me to the crux of what I'm trying to say. Dawntrail, or rather, the exploration of the new world, of Tural, is going to be the same thing. Much like how the first was written from a place of pure creative freedom back in Shadowbringers, Dawntrail and the new world, by extension, have the same artistic freedom. Back in the days of 1.0, the story was so focused on Aldernard and Eorzea and the Garlean Empire that there really was no lore/explanation of most things in the new world. Tural and Dawntrail, by extension, are blank slates. These are places that the writers have full creative liberties to really kind of do what they want with the area, characters, and geopolitical climate of those involved. So, if you're one of those people that felt like exploring the first was a breath of fresh air, then you should be getting excited for the new world and the Dawntrail expansion. Final Fantasy XIV is now in a unique position where they kind of have the luxury of going wherever they want with the story. The original tale of Hydaelyn, Zodiark, the issues with the Ascians, the shards, and all of that have essentially been resolved. All of the world building, setup, and tassels that were attached to the game long back in the days of 1.0 have finally come loose. In fact, it could be argued that that's why some players felt that Endwalker was a bit rushed. The writers more or less kind of just wanted to finally get it over with and move on to the game's next chapter, which, as I've just confirmed, will be a chapter of new ideas and places to explore. For example, I know that there are a lot of people that are disappointed that we're not going down south, down to Mericidia. However, like I said, there were trappings of Mericidian lore all the way back at the game's beginning. So if they told a Mericidian story right after Endwalker, well, they would still have to more or less follow the rules as written from the very beginning, but not so with Tural. I believe the entire reason that we're going to the New World above any other place is for the writers to finally have that luxury to stretch out and decide something new for the game's world instead of simply following what has already been established for a decade. Take heart, my friends. I wholeheartedly believe that at some point within the new story of Final Fantasy XIV, we will indeed visit Mericidia at some point. But I do honestly believe in my heart of hearts that you will enjoy our trip to the New World, because of all the creative freedom that it promises. However, these are just the ramblings of one lore nerd. Be sure to let me know what you think of this information down in the comment section below. Are you excited to see the New World? Are you excited for the prospect and promise that the writers have created something entirely unique and interesting to add to the world of Final Fantasy XIV? Or are you one of those players that would have preferred to go anywhere else other than the New World? Be sure to let me know your thoughts down below. As for me, I truly am excited to see what the New World has to offer. I must confess, even with my long-standing knowledge of the game's lore and world building, I can't tell you too much about the New World. Yet. So, let's look forward to exploring this new chapter of this MMO story together. But as always, until next we meet, stay safe, my friends. Thank you all for watching to the end. If you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe and share this with your fellow adventurers? With your help, I'll try to reach out even further and bring even greater stories to you. Although, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my biggest contributors. A grand thank you to Amina Viltaria, Slippers, Potato, Sage Mouse, Sinalv Bagel, Cizani, and Travan Shea, with an additional nod to the scholarships on screen. Links to things like my Twitter and that of my channel artist Caddy can be found in the description. Thank you all for your viewership as well as your support, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day. Class dismissed.